Hi everyone, I'm Becky Jane Stevenson, the OCD Warrior Transformation Mentor and the creator of the OCD Warriors Way membership community. So I've had a couple of requests in the last few days to create some video trainings. So I've chosen these three because they're really important, and through observing the questions and the difficulties and challenges that were coming up in many of the support groups and forums that I'm in, these were among the top three. So the first one was about exposure response prevention therapy. Now, there's many who have the belief that ERP will cure them of OCD, will cure them of intrusive thoughts, and that once they do it, they will never experience them again. I wanted to take this opportunity in this particular video to explain actually what exposure response prevention therapy is. So exposure response prevention therapy does what it says on the tin. So with a therapist or with somebody who actually knows what they're doing and has experience with exposure response prevention, will sit with you and help you whilst you deliberately trigger those intrusive thoughts, those obsessions. And what they will do is they will guide you through that to allow those reactions and responses to come in, that rush of anxiety to come in, and help you to sit with it. So essentially what it's doing is it's allowing the anxiety and the panic to slowly start coming down the longer that you can sit with it and resist doing the compulsions that you are so used to doing. Now, ERP takes a lot of practice and work. It takes consistently doing the same, triggering the obsessions and sitting with the emotions and the feelings that it brings up. The more that you repeat these, the more that you reinforce that habit, every time that intrusive thought comes up, it isn't going to have as much of a strong reaction on you. You're not going to feel it as distressing. So, for example, we do that by creating a hierarchy. So a hierarchy works on identifying your triggers from the least triggering to the most triggering. What you will do then is you will take your least triggering obsession, you will scale that, you will score the amount of anxiety, the amount of distress and panic that creates for you, and you will work towards not responding with your usual behaviours and reactions and emotions. It's giving yourself permission to sit with that, giving you permission to feel whatever it is that you need to feel whilst that thought is there, but also learning that nothing bad is happening in that moment. The more that habit is reinforced, the more likely it is that anxiety and distress over time is going to come right down to the point where you can have that obsession, that thought, and it will not elicit that reaction anymore. So it's desensitizing you to that thought, where you can have the thought and you feel nothing. It does not interrupt your day. It doesn't cause you to have the need to do compulsions. You'll be able to see that thought for what it really is, a big pile of steaming bullshit. Now, there is a couple of other techniques that people use, that professionals can typically use, that inpatients use, that clinics, and this one's called flooding. It is not a practice that I agree with, nor do I endorse flooding. I think actually it can have very detrimental effects by going straight in for that top fear. I do believe when we are rewiring our brain and rewiring those neural pathways, those habits, we have to unpick the habits that were there already to be able to introduce new habits. That cannot be done by going in for that top fear. That flooding floods you with such extreme anxiety and distress that you're probably not going to want to do it ever again, and you'll simply end up accepting that your life is taken over by compulsions. Flooding is not the way forward. That's not to say some people haven't benefited from flooding. It's going to be unique to each of you. If you've had an experience with OCD for quite some time and it's quite severe, flooding is not going to be helpful. If the OCD is quite mild and it's being picked up on quite early, yes, it could work. But from personal perspective, personal opinion, I don't agree with flooding. So we've kind of established what ERP is and the expectation that it's going to get rid of OCD. Does it get rid of the behaviours and the compulsions associated? Does it help you to work through the anxiety and distress? Does it reduce it right down and desensitise you? Yes. Does it get rid of intrusive thoughts or obsessive thoughts? No. So there's many out there that still believe that they have found a cure for OCD. I just want to point out here that the issue and the challenge and the difficulty with OCD is not the thoughts themselves. It is the response and the reaction and the importance that is given to these thoughts that is attached to them, the meaning that's being attached, the story that's being attached to them. Intrusive thoughts are simply ideas of a potential dangerous situation or dangerous outcome. They are an idea, they're nothing more. We decide whether they have evidence to support them or not. So actually there isn't a cure that exists for OCD because thoughts are thoughts. The brain has thoughts. If somebody said to me they were cured, I would literally assume that they no longer think. So those that believe that ERP can completely cure them from OCD, can it cure them from the responses that they're having and the distress that they feel? Yes. Can it cure thoughts and obsessions? No. There are another couple of points I wanted to bring up. So number one, when you go into ERP, sometimes what therapists don't tell you, and they should, is that typically the OCD can seem to get worse before it gets better because we are triggering ourselves in session, in therapy. When we do our ERP, we are deliberately bringing those obsessions on and we keep building on that. So yes, it can feel like it gets worse before it gets better. OCD will resist. You have to think those wires have been set up for so long to run on that OCD pattern. By doing ERP, essentially what you are doing is you're undoing all of those habits. That takes time. And then you're having to replace those with healthier habits. It all takes time. And the OCD will resist because you have to think it's used to you behaving and responding in a specific way. And when you try and do something different, it's not something the brain recognizes. So it will keep trying to pull you onto what it does recognize, which is the OCD response. It takes time. It takes seeing it through. Yes, it is tough. It is super tough. And yes, it may increase. It may intensify for a short while. But you owe it to yourselves to give yourselves a chance at this. The second one is do the work. There is no easy way through ERP. There's no easy way around it. If anybody is familiar with We're Going on a Bear Hunt storybook, it's actually on DVD now, I saw it yesterday. In that book, they go on a bear hunt and they're faced with many different problems that they have to find a solution. So the first one is they find long wavy grass. And in this book, they say we can't go over it, we can't go through it. We can't go over it, we can't go under it, we have to go through it. So yes, we have to go through the ERP. There is no easy way, there is no quick fix. Doing ERP properly, doing it with consistently, every single day, practicing ERP, even if you feel like you really can't, then delay your compulsions. And then if you still feel the same half an hour later, then if that is a real must, do what you got to do, but at least give yourself the chance to try and delay those responses, delay those behaviours, because in that moment, anxiety and distress cannot kill you. Anxiety and distress cannot make you do something you don't want to do. A thought you can only act on a thought when it is in line with what you want, if you have that intention behind it. And the very nature of OCD and obsessive thoughts is they're ego dystonic. We don't want them. That's why we're in our ERP. So a thought without intent becomes just a thought. but there really is no easy way. ERP is very, very tough. So this is number 3. It is very tough. You're technically surrounding yourself with your obsessions day in, day out. You are eating, sleeping, breathing your fears and some of your worst, deepest, darkest fears, not secrets, your deepest, darkest fears. You are literally living and breathing those through ERP when you go through that therapy. You're literally welcoming those fears, those thoughts. You're welcoming OCD. You're saying, hey, come and have a go. Come at me, bro. It's tough. It is tough, but it is so, so worth it. You have to think life is tough right now with OCD. ERP is tough for a short time. It takes patience with yourself. It takes celebrating those small steps when you do achieve things. And it takes commitment to yourself, motivation and perseverance. You keep persevering with it. The way I like to see it is OCD is so tough and debilitating and detracts away from somebody's life so much, it prevents them from having the experiences they want. That's long-term pain. The compulsions give you short-term relief. By doing ERP, it's short-term pain to give you long-term relief. You have to choose which one you are willing to put up with going forward. Are you willing to continue the way that you are with the compulsions, with OCD literally just controlling everything and preventing you from doing the things that you really want to do? Are you willing to spend your life pissed off at this thing and think, I'm sick of OCD, it's stopping me from doing... You have to take control of this and think, no more, I'm putting myself first. I've already been through hell with OCD. I can continue and do ERP, even though I know it's going to be super tough and it's hard. I'm going to give myself my best chance. I'm going to give myself an opportunity. That's what you've got to do for ERP. I've done it. It's hard. It is hard. But do you know what's even harder? Not being able to cuddle my daughter because I felt like a very dangerous person. Not being able to spend time alone with her. Only being able to comfort her and give her a kiss goodnight when she was asleep. Not being able to travel in a car and actually enjoy it, but have to sit on my hands the entire journey. Can you imagine how numb my hands went and how bruised they felt when I was in a car journey for a couple of hours because I had to sit on my hands? That stuff's hard. ERP, you can do this for yourselves and it is worth it. So I hope this was helpful and it gave you some insight in what to expect from ERP. Thank you.